Now, since Charlie Kirk died, there's been a growing chorus among Christian nationalists that this event, as tragic as it is, may be the thing that destroys leftism and progressivism in the United States for good. And none other than Doug Wilson has been talking about this.
I believe that history will show that Tyler Robinson, if he is convicted of firing the shot that killed Charlie Kirk, will also be revealed as the man who put a bullet in the neck of progressive leftism. But only if. One of the most important principles of war is pursuit. In electoral politics, pursuit means that any Republican legislature that has the opportunity to redraw their congressional districts has a moral obligation to do so, and to do so before the midterms. Be like Texas. This should all be done according to Hoyle and no dirty work. Of course not. The adversary will say that I'm urging legislators to go out there in order to mander the Jerry, but I laugh this suggestion to scorn. More likely, any manifestation of spine by Republicans on this issue will result in a significant number of Jerrys getting themselves unmandered, and about time, too. This should be part of a strategy to have the midterms be the time when a strong angel from Revelation pours out the contents of the seventh vial over the top of the Democratic Party as it is currently constituted, resulting in it being reconstituted as something else, something resembling a quivering gelatinous mass, and then after the seagulls take it away, a wet spot on the pavement.
There's more. I think that's enough. Y'all can listen to the full clip if you want to. I think I'll spare all of us any more of that. So I wrote a book. Some of you in the chat have said about this, have noticed. I wrote a book called Preparing for War, and I was like, hey, they're preparing for war. And I had people ask me, like, when I gave book talks and stuff, like, hey, man, why the like super aggressive title? You know, I got kind of turned off by that. I don't want to read about that kind of thing, and I don't want to prepare for war. I'm not that kind of person. I don't like war. And I was like, I don't like war either. Sounds terrible. I'm not the one preparing for war. They are, and they have been for 75 years. And Doug Wilson just says it here, right? He just distills it into 1 minute. This is war. We need to put a bullet in the neck of progressivism. They shot Charlie Kirk, whoever they is, Tyler Robertson, whatever he represents. Well, he represents Antifa, leftism, progressivism, and the Democrats. So we need to they put a bullet in Charlie's neck. We're going to put a bullet in theirs. That means it's war. That means we pursue. That means we redistrict. That means we do everything we can to make sure that there is no more democracy, no more Democratic Party, no more leftism, no more difference. Okay. Now, why are they willing to go along? Like, so hang out with me for a minute here. Okay. If the goal of an autocrat, if the goal of a regime like Trump's is to take from you your power, your property, and everything you have, why would they go along? Like, why would they want to give Trump their money, their voice, their property? And it's because they see most of you as their enemies, just like he does. If he sees the public, the American public, citizens, free citizens with a voice, the right to assembly, the right to free religion, and so on, free press, if those are the enemies, the Christian nationalists are like, yeah, most of them too for us. Yeah. Most of them also. Now you're trying to destroy them? We're on board. That's kind of like Christian nationalism and authoritarianism 101. Like, I've been talking about that on this podcast for 1,000 episodes with Dan. Like, that's kind of why Christian nationalism is always bent towards authoritarianism, because the enemy are all those people around the American table with a voice who are not them, right? Who are Hindu, who are atheist, who are humanist, who are Buddhist, who are non-religious, who are spiritual. All those people who are mixed race and immigrants, those people who are queer and non-binary, when they look around them, the American table, they're like, no, this American table is, this is was set all wrong. None of these people should be sitting here. So if you over there, authoritarian, are trying to get rid of them, yep, well, we're with you. They see you, right, in the public square, living in a way that is not their way, as the enemy. They want those things and those people who embody them crushed. That's what they want. Now, what this has led to, and I think this is a good place to kind of go today and kind of finish up, and I can take a couple questions if y'all are interested. There's a piece by John Meyer at Slate from last week, and he says, look, you're comparing Trump to the wrong dictator. A lot of people want to talk about Hitler. People want to talk about Mussolini. People want to talk about whoever. But he really points to Francisco Franco. And Franco, is this mid-20th century fascist leader. If you don't want to use the word fascism, you can say autocratic leader, etc. But Franco reigns for 4 decades. And he does so by way of kind of 2 mechanisms. One is getting conservative and big business interests on his side. And when he was able to do that, he was able to consolidate power because those interests had so much sway over land, over resources, over media. Does that sound familiar? The Washington Post is now Jeff Bezos' operation, which is totally in the pocket of Trump. Meta, Instagram, Facebook, check. Twitter, check. CBS fired Colbert. ABC fired Kimmel. He's back, etc. Okay, great. Paramount, CNN, these are all going to be taken over, it seems like, by Trump allies. TikTok is on its way. So that's happening. That was Franco. And, you're like, all right, well, we could talk about Orban. We could talk about a lot of authoritarians who play this game. That's a pretty universal authoritarian tactic, Brad. He did something else that was really important, is he tied the Catholic Church to his government. John Meyer says at Slate, framing his rebellion as a holy crusade against godless socialists, Franco strengthened the church's role in Spanish life by funding church reconstruction. Anti-Christian task force, anyone? Reinstating religious education in schools. PragerU, anyone? Giving the clergy authority to censor anything they deemed anti-Catholic. White House Faith Office, Anti-Christian Bias Task Force once again. The Catholic hierarchy relished their restored privileges and did little to oppose Franco's secret and not so secret oppression and incarceration of his enemies. To some of the faithful, Franco was the lesser of 2 evils. To others, his dictatorship was ethically righteous, God's imperfect vessel to preserve the power of the church. Franco made it so that you could not practice any religion in public other than Catholicism. He made it such that if you tried to practice a religion that was not Catholic, you were an enemy of the state. The Catholic memorials and icons, the Catholic statues, they dominated Spanish public life at this point. And to be Catholic was to be a good Spaniard. And so the Catholics, as Meyer say here, many of them at least, love this because he destroyed all difference, all plurality, all diversity, all dissidence. There was no big round table where everyone was trying to raise their hand and say, hey, I have a voice too, right? I'm a citizen. There was no freedom of religion, freedom of assembly. There was no ability to say, well, yeah, we're a small group of Hindu people, and we have our gathering place over here. There was no place to say, well, yeah, we're Baha'i or humanist. We get together on this day, do this thing. If you did that in the privacy of your own home and you kept quiet and you didn't talk about it with anyone, you might be okay. Otherwise, no. And if you go back and look at Franco is a fascination of the current American right. There are people who are so interested in him and so interested in his reign that they talk about how Franco is the guy that they want in their life. Franco is the one that they want as their model. But he has been, okay, hang with me. He has been sorry, we're having a slight technical difficulty here. 1 second. Working on it, friends. I promise. All right. Franco was somebody that people now are really interested in, but let me just tell you a story and then I'll take questions. Franco was the guy that people in mid-20th century American life revered as Catholics. I've been doing a lot of work on this for a book I'm writing, and the amount of right-wing American Catholics who went to Franco's Spain, who went there because they specifically wanted to be in a country like his, is astounding. Franco's Spain was seen as right-wing American Catholics as the ideal place while Franco was in power. So one major example, some of you know this example, was Brent Bozell Jr. Brent Bozell Jr. is not an everyday household name, but Bozell Jr. was William F. Buckley's best friend, brother-in-law. They met at Yale. They were debate partners, the whole thing. He helped him start the National Review. William F. Buckley seen as the father of modern conservatism, that whole story. Buckley was his right-hand guy. But Buckley takes his family to Spain for a number of years, specifically because he said in Spain, the Catholic thing is everywhere. He was enchanted by it. It was like he was able to return to the medieval period, where instead of going out into a world full of difference, taking your kids to school with people who don't look like you or practice like you, going out into your local eatery or shopping market and seeing people who are of different ethnicities, speaking different languages, wearing different kinds of clothes, having red dyed hair or green hair, or expressing themselves in ways that don't match up to your traditional gender expectations, all of that. Spain was like going back to the medieval period. It was amazing. And I think that we have to take into consideration the fact that the Christian nationalists, since Kirk's murder, are now basically saying there's only one way forward. And if you don't get on with us, you're going to be, you're not going to be considered a Christian. You might be on that enemies list. The way forward is war. The way forward is violence. There was an op-ed last week by Dillinger, Tim Dillinger, I believe his name is, but his last name is Dillinger, at the Daily Caller that said, I am calling for explicit violence. Some people say, oh, what I mean is this. And he said, I'm not doing that today. I'm calling for violence against those who are not real Americans. So if I just back up today, I think, look, we've got troops in Portland. We've got Hegseth gathering the admirals and the generals. We've got people saying in the Department of War that the focus is on the homeland. And my takeaway is you're the enemy. My second takeaway is the Christian nationalists also see you as the enemy. So they're on board with this war. They're framing it differently. Doug Wilson doesn't talk like Donald Trump, but they both are fighting the same enemy in their mind. And that's why Trump remains their guy. That's why they remain on board with what's happening. They love Pete Hegseth. They love J.D. Vance. They love RFK. They love everything that happened at Kirk's memorial. And that could be, as we look back, a kind of deciding event in all of this, but time will tell.